If you're new here, before we begin, take just 2 quiet seconds and press that subscribe button. It may feel like a small gesture, just a simple click, but it tells this channel that these kinds of stories matter. And if at any moment something in this story reaches you in a way you didn't expect, don't forget to leave a like. Your support allows us to continue sharing stories that don't shout for attention, stories that simply ask for it, gently. Now I need one more thing from you. Lower the noise around you. Set your phone face down. Let the world pause for a little while. And promise yourself you won't skip ahead. Because this isn't a loud story. There are no explosions. No dramatic betrayals. No angry confrontations in the rain. No heroic speeches meant to echo through history. This story whispers. And sometimes the quietest whispers carry the heaviest truths. This is the story of Elena. A woman who once believed she understood love so completely that she stopped checking whether it was still there. Until one ordinary Thursday afternoon quietly reminded her of everything she had slowly, silently forgotten. Elena had always believed that marriage was sacred. Not perfect. Not cinematic. Not the kind of love that fills social media with grand gestures and filtered photographs. Sacred. To her, love had never been about dramatic surprises or expensive gifts. It wasn't about bouquets delivered to offices or romantic speeches under city lights. Love, she believed, lived in quieter places. It lived in the pauses between conversations. In the comfortable silence shared between two people who didn't feel the need to fill every moment with words. It lived in the private jokes no one else understood. In the way two hands could find each other under a table without either person looking down. In the quiet promise that even on the days when life felt heavy, someone was still choosing you. Especially on those days. The days when you weren't glowing. When you were tired. When your confidence faded. When you felt small, uncertain, distracted, or overwhelmed. Elena believed love meant someone still looked at you in those moments and thought, yes, still you. And to Elena, a home was never built with walls or furniture or polished floors. A home was built with presence. And for a long time she had that. There was a time when her husband, David, was not distant. There was a time when he was her closest friend. Back when they were newly married, they lived in a small apartment that barely fit the two of them. The kitchen was narrow. The bedroom barely had space for a dresser. The plumbing made strange rattling sounds late at night that sometimes woke them up. But instead of complaining, they laughed. They turned inconveniences into stories. The broken cabinet handle became a running joke. The squeaky floorboard outside the bedroom door became the apartment's ghost. Their tiny living room held a couch that had been bought secondhand, and its fabric was worn in places, but somehow that couch became the center of their world. They spent evenings there talking about everything. Dreams, fears, childhood memories. And David listened. Not the way people sometimes pretend to listen while scrolling through their phones. He listened with his eyes. With attention. With curiosity. He remembered things. Little things. He remembered that Elena hated thunderstorms because when she was 8 years old, she once got lost during a heavy summer storm. He remembered that she secretly wanted to learn painting, but felt embarrassed because she thought she lacked talent. He remembered the name of her childhood dog. He remembered her favorite childhood book. He remembered how she liked her tea. When Elena spoke during those early years, David's attention never drifted. His eyes stayed on her. Not on a screen. Not on the television. Not on the clock. Just her. And in those moments Elena felt something simple but powerful. Seen. Years passed. Life expanded. Success grew. Responsibilities multiplied. Their small apartment was eventually replaced by a larger house with polished hardwood floors and tall windows that let sunlight flood into the living room. The furniture was elegant. The kitchen had marble countertops. Soft vanilla candles burned in the evenings, filling the air with a warm scent. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Beautiful even. But perfection can sometimes hide emptiness. Because somewhere along the way, something subtle began to fade. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. There was no explosive argument. No betrayal. No clear moment when everything changed. It happened the way daylight slowly becomes evening. Gradually. Quietly. So quietly that by the time you notice, Darkness has already arrived. David's world became busier. His career demanded more attention. Emails, late-night calls, endless meetings, deadlines that refused to wait. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't unfaithful. He never raised his voice. He simply became absent. And Elena would later realize that absence can sometimes hurt more than anger. Because anger at least acknowledges your presence. Absence erases it. Their conversations began to change. Where there were once long discussions about dreams and ideas, there were now short exchanges about logistics. Did you pay the electricity bill? What should we eat tonight? Don't forget your appointment tomorrow. Practical. Efficient. Transactional. There were no shouting matches. No slam doors. No dramatic ultimatums. Just silence. A silence that looked perfectly normal from the outside. And that kind of silence is the hardest to explain. Because when you try to describe it to someone else, they often say, "But he's not doing anything wrong." And technically they're right. But love doesn't disappear only through cruelty. Sometimes it fades through neglect. Most evenings Elena found herself sitting near the kitchen window. Outside, streetlights glowed softly through the branches of nearby trees. Cars passed occasionally. Strangers walked their dogs along the quiet sidewalk. Life moved forward. And she watched. Sometimes she imagined what it would feel like if David suddenly walked into the kitchen and looked at her the way he once did. With curiosity. With warmth. With attention. But reality was colder than imagination. David usually came home tired. Distracted. Already halfway somewhere else mentally. He would kiss her forehead in a quick, absent-minded way. Set his phone on the counter. And within seconds he would be typing again. Responding to messages. Answering emails. Reading something work-related. Dinner would sit between them. Conversations would last only a few minutes. And slowly, painfully, Elena forgot what it felt like to truly be seen. Not admired. Not complimented. Seen. Because there is a difference. To be admired means someone notices you. To be seen means someone understands you. And somewhere along the years, understanding had quietly slipped out of their home. That Thursday afternoon arrived without warning. No argument preceded it. No dramatic moment triggered it. It came after a long day of errands. After a week of quiet dinners. After months of telling herself she was probably overthinking everything. But something inside her finally reached a quiet limit. She wasn't angry. She was exhausted. The kind of exhaustion that comes from holding everything together, while feeling like no one is holding you. She stood in the kitchen. Her hands rested on the cool marble countertop. The house was spotless. The sink empty. The vanilla candle burned softly beside the window. Everything looked peaceful. Yet Elena felt like she couldn't breathe. "I just need air," she whispered to herself. Not escape. Not rebellion. Not revenge. Just air. And so she did something small. Something she once would have dismissed as unnecessary. She booked a massage. Elena remembered smiling politely at the time. Self-care had always felt indulgent to her. Like something busy people didn't really have time for. But that afternoon felt different. That afternoon she listened to herself. The spa was located inside an old townhouse on a quiet street. The sign outside was modest. Harmony Spa Body and Soul. It almost felt too gentle for the storm of emotions she had been carrying. But when she stepped inside, something shifted immediately. The air smelled of lavender and sandalwood. Soft instrumental music floated through the rooms. The lighting was warm and dim. It felt like stepping out of noise and into something sacred. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile that didn't feel rehearsed. "Welcome, Mrs. Collins." Hearing her name spoken softly made something inside Elena relax. "You'll be with Marcus today." The name sounded steady, professional, safe. While waiting, Elena sank into a plush chair in the lounge. Someone nearby slowly turned the pages of a magazine. The sound was soft, rhythmic. For the first time in months, Elena closed her eyes and breathed. She became aware of how tense her shoulders felt, how tight her neck had become, how heavy her body felt after carrying invisible stress for so long. Stress from unspoken words, from emotions she never voiced, From needs she convinced herself didn't matter. When Marcus appeared, his presence was calm and grounded. He spoke gently. "Mrs. Collins?" He didn't rush her. He didn't glance impatiently at a clock. He simply waited. He led her down a quiet hallway into a room lit by warm amber light. A massage table covered in white linen stood at the center. Neatly folded towels rested nearby. Small glass bottles of oils lined a wooden shelf. "Take your time getting comfortable," Marcus said kindly. "I'll step outside." When the door closed softly behind him, Elena realized something unexpected. She was alone. Not lonely. Alone in a way she hadn't been in years. A moment that belonged only to her. No responsibilities. No expectations. No one needing anything from her. She stood still for a moment, then slowly lay down on the table. When Marcus returned, his movements were careful and professional. His hands rested gently on her shoulders. Warm. Steady. Present. And something inside Elena cracked. Not because of the touch, but because of the attention. "Is the pressure comfortable?" he asked softly. Such a simple question. Yet Elena couldn't remember the last time someone had asked if she was comfortable. If she was okay. If something felt right for her. She swallowed quietly. "Yes," she whispered. As the massage continued, his hands moved slowly across the tension that had hardened into her muscles. And suddenly she felt tears gathering behind her closed eyes. She hadn't come there to cry. She hadn't come there to feel anything. But sometimes when the body begins to relax, the heart follows. Marcus didn't speak much. But when he did, his voice remained gentle. "You carry a lot of tension here," he observed softly. Elena almost laughed. If only he knew. But perhaps he did. Because tension is rarely just physical. It settles into the body when words are swallowed. When emotions are postponed. When love slowly transforms from connection into routine. Halfway through the session, something shifted. Elena stopped thinking about dinner. About emails. About the quiet emptiness waiting at home. She was simply there. Breathing. Feeling the slow rhythm of her own body again. And for the first time in years, she felt present in her own life. After the session ended, Elena sat quietly in the lounge with a cup of warm herbal tea. The world outside hadn't changed. Her marriage hadn't magically healed. David was still the same man he had been that morning. But something inside her had moved. A realization, quiet but powerful. She had spent years waiting to be seen. Waiting for someone else to notice her loneliness. Waiting for someone else to fix the silence. But somewhere along the way, she had also stopped seeing herself. She had abandoned her own needs. Ignored her own voice. Postponed her own happiness. And that afternoon taught her something unexpected. Sometimes the first person who must return to your life is you. That evening when she returned home, nothing looked different. The house was still clean. The candles still burned. David was still typing on his phone when she walked in. But Elena looked at everything with new awareness. She didn't start a fight. She didn't accuse him. Instead, she did something far more difficult. She spoke honestly. "David," she said softly, "I miss us." He looked up. Really looked up. For the first time in a long while. And in that moment something important happened. Because sometimes people don't realize what has been lost until someone quietly names it. Love rarely disappears overnight. More often it fades slowly through inattention. Through routine. Through the belief that because something has always been there, it will always remain. But love, like anything alive, requires care, presence, curiosity, listening. And sometimes all it takes to begin repairing what was fading is one honest moment, one quiet conversation, one reminder that the person sitting across from you is not furniture in your life. They are a human heart still waiting to be seen. If this story reached something inside you, take a moment and ask yourself something simple. When was the last time you truly looked at the person you love? Not glanced, not noticed, but truly looked. Because sometimes the difference between distance and connection is only attention. And attention is one of the most powerful forms of love we can offer. If this story meant something to you, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, so we can keep sharing more stories like this. Stories that don't shout, but whisper truths many people are quietly living. And until the next story, take care of the people you love. And don't forget to take care of yourself too.